like two with the big organization, and it's an end-to-end implementation for GRC and S4HANA, and one ECC security implementation project, and one ECC security role redesigning plus rollouts also. So that's all about me. And yeah, so I think we can start now. So basically, why security is required? So let's say there is a system and user wants to access some of the data. So basically SAP is a system where you are procuring your all the data related to your management, like material management, whatever you are getting in the system, whatever you are getting in terms of your request or whatever, let's say there is a PO in the system, then all those details is coming in SAP through different modules. So basically in SAP there are multiple modules like finance. There is one module SAP FI. Under FI, there is one sub module that is CU, that is for controlling. In the same way, there is another module called SAP Then there is different module PS, PP. So all these modules makes one software, and that is called SAP. And SAP is nothing; it's an entrepreneur software that basically controls or give you the power to control all your expenses or whatever transaction is going in your organization. That particular controlling power is coming through SAP, and all the reporting is done through SAP. Let's say you want to see in last year how many POs you have distributed, or in how many material you have procured from different vendors. So these type of reports you will get it from SAP, and for that you have to enter data, and that data is coming from different modules like finance, and to, let's say, that data, if someone can access that data, then it's a big issue for that organization, and it can cause multiple consequences like fraud can commit in that system. Let's say some other person access your SAP software, and that particular person can cause any type of transaction in the system. So to control this thing, security comes into picture. And basically security is used to what it called, so security is used to control who can access your SAP system, and how many, or and what type of access you have given to that user, and what all transactions he can perform in the system. So security is nothing but authentication and authorization. Authentication means who will access your SAP system, and authorization, what he will access in the system. So these two things coming from security background. Previously, around 5 to 6 years back, security is running with basis. So at that time, basis and security consultant is known as basis consultant. But in current scenario, basis consultant is different. The one who is taking care of the infrastructure part. Like if you want to install SAP system, that comes under basis. If you want to do some like upgrade in the system, like STPI upgrades or some other upgrades in the system, so that part is coming from basis. In case of user related access part, authentication part, or auditing part, or GRC governance part, so these comes under security. So let's say right now we are working on S4 HANA, but before S4 HANA we are having one more system, and that is ECC. In that system, if I'll talk about what's the difference, basically difference between S4 HANA and ECC. So S4 HANA is basically designed on HANA system, and HANA is a runtime software which is running on RAM. So understand it in the layman terms. RAM is the highest running memory on, and on that RAM you are running your software. So each and everything that you are accessing from the system or saving in the system, that is a runtime software. So actual speed of your system is increased. This is the main difference between S4 HANA and ECC. Apart from this, in ECC, there are different modules, and those are not interrelated as compared to S4 HANA. So basically in that software, if I talk about SAP FI integration with so that integration is not up to that level. That level right now SAP is giving in S4 HANA. This is another difference. Apart from this, if I talk about in terms of security, it's basically same. Over there also we are using the same tools or T codes, and in S4 HANA also we are using the same T codes or tools. Okay, so let's start with ECC security. So under ECC security, Basically, in security, I told you two things. One is authentication and second is authorization. So authentication is coming from user master record, not from HR master record. It's coming from user master record. There are two records on the system. One is HR master record and the second one is user master record. What HR master record holds in the system? That consists of your personal information like your username, your organization ID, your email ID. These comes under HR master record, your basic salary, your PF, your deductions. And apart from this, you can see your organization, what type of designation you hold in your organization. So these many details coming from your HR system. HR you can integrate with the other softwares also, and from there you can pick up your data and put it in your SAP system. That's a different thing. But in terms of user master record, basically we are holding the same data like your first name, last name, and your designation in the organization, your email ID. These are the four main key parameters that we consider while creating a user master record. But these records does not conclude that you are from the same background, because this type of record is basically required to create an account for you. Even you can create an account in SAP without having your first name also. Only last name is required and your email ID should be there. In case if, like, let's say your organization hold two person with the same last name, then in that case email ID is required. So email ID is basically a kind of primary key in SAP, and last name is also a basically. So whenever we are creating a record in SAP, last name is the mandatory field. Apart from this, if we are talking about, so this is part of authentication. Let's say you have created a user in SAP and that user holds all these information. Then you will be saving a particular record for that user and you will give a password to that account. Then once you share those credentials with the person who is having authority to access your SAP system, that person can access your system by using those credentials. Okay. This is one of the thing under security, and that is for authentication part. Now comes to the authorization part. Now you have created one account in SAP and that account should have access. Likewise, you can see this screen. Let's say my account don't have any access. Then if I'll run SU01 T code, then I cannot access it because right now I don't have any access in the system. But right now this user is having all the accesses. Let's say this user holds SAP all. I'll explain that part later. Then in that case, you can access all the transactions available in SAP. But let's say this, once you create an account in the SAP with the basic details like last name, email ID, first name, and you just give the password to that account, then once you save it, user will not be able to access any of the transaction. User can come down to this screen after entering the credentials, but he cannot access any of the system. Okay. So let's say I have created one account with basic details and I have just added a password to that account, and you shared those password with some of your candidate who can access your SAP system. Then he can access this system, but if I'll run any of the transaction or if I want to perform any of the T codes or any of the activity in the system, then system will give you an error. So up to this stage, it's authentication part. And after this stage, whatever user is trying to perform in SAP, that is coming from the second theory of SAP, and that is authorization. Now, authorization you will be giving through roles. You will be creating a roles or profiles in the system, and that roles or profiles holds the T code. What is T code? What is T code? So basically, each and every activity in SAP is assigned one T code. Let's say I want to create a user, then there is a T code SU01. SU01. This is one T code. If I want to create a user in system, then this is the T code designed by SAP to create a user in SAP. Okay, let's say there is one different T code, that is PA20 or PA30. This T code is used to create a user in HR master records. Like with basic pay details and all those stuff, you can create user through this transaction. So each and every activity that you will perform in SAP has a naming convention called T code, and that T code consists of 4 to 5 letters depending on the requirement. Okay, 4 to 5 letters, and somewhere you will see this is the T code, that is /IWFND manned service. This is one T code. Okay, so each and every activity in SAP has its naming convention, and that is called T code or transaction code. Okay, so let's say I am creating one user, that is the T code SU01. If I'll enter this T code, then you will not be able to access without having a proper access to this transaction code. So that access is coming from authorization concept. And whenever you are talking about password or credentials part, how user will access all those things, that is coming from authentication part. So these two are the two things that you are seeing in the system from security perspective. And each and every system in SAP holds these two concepts. One is authentication and second is authorization. Authentication is nothing, log into the system, sharing credentials or defining credentials to the user, that is called